Publication strategies. This is a most exciting part for people who want to aspire and publish. And some of you have been submitting papers. But I realize that almost everyone is PhD candidate or master's graduate, right? Is there anyone a postdoc? That's too bad, huh? Maybe we should, next time when we do it, we should announce it to postdocs as well. Because this part is very useful for people who are kind of trying to submit and get their papers out. All right, so publication strategies. We start with, there are a few resources on publishing than writing. I mean, you can find a few, papers on how to write a paper, empirical paper. Some colleagues have already posted on the internet. But for publishing, there's not much. So I draw on two sources. One is Belmare 2020. That's Mark Belmare. He was the editor of the American Journal of Agricultural Economics. He has very helpful documents that advises researchers and junior researchers how to write a paper and how to publish it. Choi 2002, and also my own experience. Choi 2002 is a bit outdated, 20 years, but I think his tips are still very important. He was at the University of Georgia or something. So where to submit? Where do you submit your paper? Well, two options, two practices. Someone asked yesterday this question. Write with a specific journal in mind, thinking about one journal. I will submit it to Journal of Labor Economics or the South African Journal of Economics. Or write the paper first and determine where to send it. I think it depends on the person usually. And there is no specific thing. In my career, I've never written a paper having a journal in mind. Of course, I have like a journal that this must go to at least a top field or above or something, or it must go a minimum to a second tier field journal. That's what I have in mind. Whichever you choose, it's a good practice to write a general audience in mind. A general audience in mind. You have to write the paper the way we discussed it yesterday is a general writing format. If you write it, then everybody in the economics profession can understand it. So it helps even you submit to a field journal. The editor might be in the same field but in a different area. Because sometimes what happens is when you write it for a general economics audience, the advantage is that the editor might not be a labor economist. You wrote about labor issues, but the editor is not a labor economist. The editor is from industrial organization or trade, completely different field. So they can't really tell whether your paper is good or bad. So, but what do? So if they read and understand it, they will be able to choose the right reviewer for your paper. So writing it in a journal format that we discussed yesterday, I think that's the way to do it. And it attracts reader outside of your area, which means you will also have more citation. So when the introduction is detailed like that, and it points out, for example, there were gender stories in there, there's like environmental stories in there, there's development stories in there, you're basically making the paper accessible to all people working in these different areas. So that has a massive advantage. Types of economics journals, yes. This is a classification of journals. We have the top 5 economics journals. There's no disagreement in these journals. Top 5s are like the Quarterly Journal of Economics, American Economic Review, the Journal of Political Economy, Review of Economics Studies, and Econometrica. So these 5 journals are the top economics 5 journals. Then, right below them, there are second-tier general journals. So the top 5 are general journals too. That means health economists publish there, development economists publish there, labor economists publish there, macro people publish there, finance people publish there. So they're general. Second tier are also general. So general interest journals are Review of Economics and Statistics, ReStat, American Economic Journals, AEJ, Applied AEJ Policy, the Journal of European Economic Association, etc. And experimental economics, sometimes I think in some departments, some experimental economics goes down to this as well, to the top field level. So the third level of journals is top field journals, that in every subfield, there's a top journal in that. In development, it's a journal of development economics. In labor, it's a journal of labor economics. In environment, it's a journal of environmental economics and management. Some of them have two kind of journals that are kind of claiming to be the top journals. In environment, for example, you have another journal called the American the Journal of the Association of Environmental Economists. So, and even in labor, there's another journal called Journal of Human Resources, which is also viewed as a top field. But at least it gives you the idea how we classify journals. In agriculture, it is the American Journal of Agricultural Economics. In monetary economics, it's a Journal of Monetary Economics. In growth, it's a Journal of Economic Growth. In health, it's a Journal of Health Economics, Energy Journal, etc. These are top field journals. So if you want to establish yourself as an international scholar, you have to have at least one of these top field journals. It's like I'm an agricultural economist with international reputation, a minimum one or two or a few of these top fields are important.
Yes, I'd like to know, how do you identify that as the top field journals?
Yeah, there are different classifications. There are different listings of journal listings. The one we use, for example, it's called, it's issued by Tilburg University, Tinbergen Institute in Europe. That's what we use. So they give them some points. It's a points-based system. So most of the top field journals have a point close to 2. 2 or above. So that's how you know, usually. There's no a clear kind of document which says that this is a general journal, this is a top field journal. You have to go and see the journal's homepage. The journal's homepage, you know, aims and scope, they have like a page that explains what are the aims of the journal, what is the scope. So this journal is one of the oldest general interest journals. It says, if you go to the economic journal, for example. If you go to the Journal of Development Economics, you say that this is a top field journal in development issues. So you will have to see the journal's homepage and have the list, rely on the list, you know, find out which list that your university use. Foshi, I think you have a list as well that we use.
JCR ranking.
JCR ranking. So that's the one, for example, ERSA uses. So there wouldn't be a difference with this, I promise you. The only difference would be when you go a little bit below these, like second tier field journals. That's the third level. Now the fourth level is what? The next journals that come up after this would be second tier field journals. It's not a top field, but it's second tier field journal. In development is the World Bank Economic Review, Economic Development and Cultural Change. These are all one rank below the top field. Environment and Resource Economics, the Journal of Environmental Economics Association, the Journal of Economic Behavior Organization. At some places it's viewed as a top field. You see, there's a bit of classification difference. Some departments value it a little bit more, some others a little bit less. But there's no like this drastic difference in the value that you get out of it. Health economics, labor economics, energy economics. These are all second-tier journals. So there are also reputable, these are all, by the way, the ones that I discussed are 4 levels, right? Top 5, which is top-tier general, second-tier general, top field, and then second-tier field. Second-tier field. 4 classifications. There's another classification. These are all, the first 4 are economics journals in econ departments. These ones are multidisciplinary. The two top multidisciplinary journals are Science and Nature. It's also great to aim these kinds of journals sometimes if you're working on a very broad topic that adds knowledge almost overall. It's very demanding to publish there, but you will get like incredibly high citations and you will reach other people in other disciplines when you publish in these journals. And then top field level journals, these are also multidisciplinary, the PNAS, the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, PNAS. Then you have like second tier level, like World Development is also a multidisciplinary journal. You can find it in the list of economics journals, but still it's a multidisciplinary journals. Political scientists, foresters, etc. publish. So let's say that, raise your hands and randomly and tell me your specialization. What are you working on? Tell me again. Public finance. So your top field would be the Journal of Public Economics. The Journal of Health Economics should be the journal that you target. That's the top field journal. Vicky. The informal sector. It depends. So in the informal sector, what are you working on, macro topic or a micro topic? Employment-related stuff or not? It depends. But if you're working, for example, employment-related stuff, the Journal of Labor Economics would be the target, or the Journal of Development Economics. So it's two options. That's the journal that you aspire to aim. Maybe we can do a few here. Inflation, the Journal of Monetary Economics.
Smart city.
Oh, smart cities. Yeah, excellent. So you aim the Journal of Environmental Economics and Management. That's one. The Journal of Urban Economics. I didn't include all top field journals here. I just gave examples. Urban issues, the Journal of Urban Economics, the Journal of Economic Geography as well. These are all top field in that area. You have to download the papers related to what you're working on and read if you want to advance, our understanding and knowledge in that area.
Trade and climate change.
Yeah, so the trade and climate change, it depends. You can aim climate journals or environmental journals like the Journal of Environmental Economics and Management, and you can also aim the Journal of International Trade. These are all top field levels. That's why working on these kinds of topics is also a good idea. Linking it with climate, because everything is now linked to climate. For example, the power outage paper is a standard development firm productivity kind of related paper, but it is focusing on generator use, carbon dioxide emission, and pollution. So you can link it with the environment. So when you have these overlapping kind of areas when you work on, you have the option to send your papers to either of those journals. So that's the advantage.
Would you rather go to a journal that's top there, but
Yes.
in your field, or top there but journal targeting
Nice.
everyone?
This is an excellent question, I think, which I should reflect on. They're all given points. In each department, in every department, it varies. Okay, let me give you Gothenburg, where I was also a department member, Department of Economics, our department. So they give points. You get points, like you publish one paper. So if you, let's just start from top 5, QJ, AR, JP, Restud, and Econometrica. These top 5 journals. You publish there, how many points will you get? 8 points for one publication. To become a full professor, you need 16 points. Full professor. So you publish 2 papers in there, you can meet your requirements. That's it. Yeah. Simple as that. Simple as that. Oh, you may need other 2 or 3 in smaller journals as well. That's fine. But this is like the sufficient condition. I think I use the other. If you published, this is like top 5, right? After the top 5, what do we have? Second tier, general journals. You get 4 points. Slashed by half. So you get 2 top field. Example, JDE. You get 2. So, to become a full professor, you need probably 8 of these, minimum. Or 4 of this, 2 of this. This was until like a year ago or something. Now it has changed as well, even. Nowadays, publishing only here is not going to be enough. So one of your publications must be in this category.
So, since I'm a PhD candidate, what if I publish there in the top 5, 2 papers, that's a PhD? How would I get?
Yes, so I know this is a weird rule in many of these African universities. So like once you published it in your PhD, you can use that to promote yourself for associate professorship. That's really the wrong way to do it. I think in many African universities I learned that. Because some of my colleagues was like, oh no, I shouldn't reveal this publication because otherwise they would not consider it for my associate professorship publication. Because for associate professorship, if it is required that 6 is required and you have 8, so you'll have to hide the other 2. You see? so that nobody knows that you have these publications. And then once you're promoted, you will show them off. But this is crazy. You can't do that. So you see the system, this system that is said that we respond to this system, and the system is making you completely dishonest as well, because what you're doing is dishonest. You have to reveal all the research that we do. So what is the best way to avoid this? At a certain point to apply for professorship, you will be considered at that level for all the publications that you produced before, no matter when it was, whether you're an associate, a full, or whatever it is. So that's the way to do it. That's how we do it in Sweden, in many of the European universities. So yes, unfortunately that's why, because I've seen that in some of the PhD students as I supervised in other African countries as well.
So just to follow up, so when you apply for that promotion, you can even use the articles you published even before your master's, during your master's.
If you did, yeah, but it's very unlikely that you published any paper when you were a master's. At least it's worth for promotion. But in theory, yes. So I answered your question. So that means it is encouraged to aim these, no question about it. But they're very demanding. It's very demanding to publish. I don't have a publication here. No, not yet. Not in that level. Because it's very demanding, it's very competitive, and some people complain that it's not only the paper's quality that matters. Some other factors like connections and things matter as well. I mean, we're also humans, right? There's a bit of corruption for sure. People complain about it, but I think most of it is, of course, related to the quality of the paper. So the people that are publishing there are really coming up from the top schools. They have higher level of writing and, mathematical and other skills. So if you look at the papers, you can see how much time the person have already spent on that paper. That's why it says that they take 4 years, 3 years to write one paper, to publish it there. Yeah, so if you submit to a top 5, you get 2 many field articles. Sorry. Oh, yeah, you submit to a 5, so you have to be very careful when you submit your paper. Okay, you're submitting to a general journal, but you're citing only field journal articles in your introduction. So the reviewer would think that then you should send it to a field journal, because you're not contributing to the general journals. If you are contributing to general journals, you have to cite papers from general interest journals. So these papers. So in general, the papers that you cite can guide where to submit your paper to similar journals. So when you write your introduction, that should come to your mind. The paper is nicely written, but what kind of papers am I citing? And if you are citing them in the intro, they will be your referees as well, very likely. Editors choose referees sometimes from that list. Okay, when you submit, so now you chose one journal, and then you submitted it, right? You get rejected several times. There is no success without failing first. So you have to have thick skin, like I said. Desk rejections, these are very common. You submit the paper, the editor says, no, I think, thank you for your interest in our journal, but this paper is not going to make it. So I decided to reject it because of this reason, that reason. Sometimes I give reasons that it doesn't add that much to the literature, or it's not relevant to our paper. If it's a trade and monetary journal, you send it to the Journal of Environmental Economics and Management, they will reject it right away because it doesn't have any relevance to environmental issues. That's one possible reason. Sometimes it's monetary, but you send it to the monetary journal and then they reject it for value-added reasons. It's very common. You should be fine if it is a quick rejection. You did not lose so much time. If they reject it up to a month, that's okay. Usually they reject in 2 weeks, a week, sometimes a day, next day. That happens. Desk rejections are fast because sleeping on the paper for months and desk rejecting it is brutal. So you can't do that. Many journals don't do that. At least the good ones don't do that. Rejection after review, this is the next common rejection. It waited for 6 months. They sent it to 2 or 3 reviewers. The reviewers sent in their comments. We have experienced that so many times. It can be upsetting at times, but it can be a great opportunity to get good comments that will improve the paper for the next journal. Very likely that's how it is. because people give you good comments because they have to justify to the editor. So they read the paper, provide the comments, and send it to you through the journal. So you don't know who they are, it's anonymous. But the editor also looks at it, and then they advise the editor whether to accept or to reject the paper. Sometimes they say some things they didn't tell you there to the editor. So for whatever reason, the editor should consider all these when they reject. But look at the comments. It's a good opportunity to improve the paper. I got rejected twice in 2 second-tier general journals after heavy revisions. That was one of the most painful things I had to endure. 2 second-tier field. That means that give you 4 points. So after heavy revision, first one is the Review of Economics and Statistics. And the other one was, I think, the Economic Journal, something. You must have thick skin for rejection if you want to succeed in publication. I've said this so many times. Yeah.
On rejections, we submit, we reject comments. We do revisions, we submit. We have like a standard rule. How many times we can submit the work?
You can submit it as long as it takes, until it gets accepted. That's how it is. But if it's not accepted in the 3rd, 4th time or 5th time, you should really sit down and think about some things, huh? Something must be terribly wrong about that paper. That's why, you see, you don't have to worry about rejection. So the whole thing starts when you are preparing your proposal. Are you coming up with a novel question? Are you using a solid identification strategy? And then you find novel results and you show your contributions properly. And are you taking the time to write the paper neatly? Once you answer these questions, publishing in reasonable journals that you aspire shouldn't be a big problem. So usually you publish it in the 2nd or 3rd round. There are so many papers that I published after the 3rd attempt. One of the papers has design issues. It was novel, like it was published in the World Bank Economic Review, but I submitted to a second-tier top journal like Restat and EJ. Then it ended up at the World Bank Economic Review, second-tier field journal. That's not what I aspired, but it's a good journal. So I'm okay. But there was some design issues that I should have been very careful. It was my first RCT. You see, that's where you take significant amount of care. You have to be very careful when you start the project. And the other thing is, we'll come to the research ethics part to discuss is co-authorship. You co-author with solid people that are experienced in doing this, writing it very well. That would be their contribution. Consult mentors and senior colleagues if you're not sure. You see, take a bit of time after rejection and carefully address the substantive issues before submitting it to the next journal. Please, do not submit the paper as it is to the next journal. You have to address the comments. I told you this yesterday. If you're not sure which ones to address and which ones not to address, talk to senior colleagues, right? Supervisors, mentors. Never submit a rejected paper to the next journal in line without addressing the key comments. The pool of reviewers in closely ranked journals is very similar. 3 times in my career, I told you. So without going into details of the journals, the first, they're all 3 top field journals. There will be 3 articles by 3 different co-authors. So you provide comments and you reject in the top field. Then if you're rejected in the top field, where do you go next? Second tier. So the second tier journal sent to me again because it's in my area. That paper is exactly identical to the previous version. And you inform the editor that I reviewed this paper for this journal. These are the comments and they didn't address any of them. So without taking any time, just cut and paste that comment and send it. So it will be rejected again. So there's no point in doing that. So you have to incorporate comments. Clearly means that the authors did not address the comments to the reviewers. If they sent it back exactly as it is, it means they didn't do any effort at all because we wasted our time. We do this for free. To review one paper usually takes you 1 working day if you want to do it really well. 1 working day. And you wasted all that time and these reviewers didn't care much. So don't be that person. Revise and resubmit is the other outcome. Congratulations. If you received an R&R in the journal you aspire to publish, but there is no guarantee the paper will be accepted. It can be rejected after revise and resubmits as well. It's not very common, but it can happen. And reviewers are very careful. They don't give you any promise. But these are the comments. It's heavy lift. I'm happy if you want to address and try, but I don't give you a guarantee that it will be accepted. So you have to take your chance. Take all substantive comments, minor comments as well for that matter, very seriously. Take all comments seriously, unless those comments, it doesn't mean that you have to take 100% of all those comments, because sometimes some referees see different things differently, and they will give you advice that will change the message of the paper. In that case, you should stand up and politely argue that, sorry, this is not the way to do it. I understand appreciate your comment, but I don't feel like addressing it this way because it will change the paper this way and it will give the wrong message. So you have a right to say no too. And the editor will make the decision at the end. They will evaluate, okay, the referee suggested this, but the author did this. Who's right? So they can make that judgment. And be genuinely grateful that the reviewers and the editors took their precious time to read your paper. This is something that we forget. Like I said, it takes over 1 day, almost 1 working day to review a paper. So when you get 3 comments that are detailed, you should be really grateful, even if the comments are upsetting. Because these people took their time, free time, to improve that paper, at least most of the time. Of course, some reviewers actually write all sort of crap, actually, to get you the paper rejected. I mean, we'll come to the research ethics part. This peer review system is also a bit problematic sometimes, but in general, it works reasonably well. But there are some evil-minded people who give comments to the reviewer just to make sure that your paper is rejected. Because the problem is, they call that this is double blind, but it's not double blind. It's only half blind, one side blind. You don't know the reviewers, but the reviewers can know who you are. Doing a simple search is enough, because you presented the paper in the conference. It's there. So they know who you are. Sometimes they take it personally. I have experienced that. Then you can tell. Whenever, when you publish many papers, receive these comments, you can tell that the motives of this person was completely different. Maybe it's like, I will come to it in the research ethics part. There might be different reasons. Maybe they are publishing a similar paper in that area, so they want their paper to be accepted first. This is one possible reason. Second is pure evil. Or third is they may know that you needed desperately that paper for a promotion. If you don't get that paper, your promotion will be postponed by 2 more years. So these things can happen, but these are very unlikely. Like they can happen, but not often. So in general, the peer system works well.
Do you get any recognition for being a peer reviewer?
Yes, that's also another thing we'll discuss in the ethics part, but unfortunately not much.
Okay.
But this is also one problem. Universities don't provide recognition for that. The journals give you certificates, for example. Thank you and appreciation. Like Elsevier journals, for example, every year they post your name there. So that's a sign that you're playing a key role in your field. So we all have to do this. This is what we call contribution to the common good. But it doesn't receive the required recognition because it's very costly. So I very often say, no, I don't want to review. I mean, I usually review maximum 2 or 3 for 3 journals, max. It depends. But usually no, because it takes so much time and it's free service and nobody cares about it.
Okay. So normally when you receive a feedback from the journal or any journal, they have a time frame. The revised review.
Yes. Ooh, that's crazy. 10 days? Never heard of it. Well, yes, some journals are like that.
So does it matter if I keep on extending it?
Yeah. Yeah. No. 10 days is too short. It depends. I mean, the good journals, the journals that I mentioned here, they usually give you 6 months. 3 months, 6 months. Some give you a year. Because depends how heavy it is. I mean, the most recent R&R, it took me 1 year. 1 full year I mean, I'm not working on it day and night. They have other things as well. So,
Question. Let's say you have 4 reviewers, Nick, and then 2 of them have accepted your paper. They're saying, okay, it's fine. And then there's other 2 that say, no, I refuse to, you know. So what happens, let's say, if now out of 4, 3 of them, they see that the paper is good, and then there's 1 that is adamant that.
yeah, it's up to the reviewer. The editor. The editor should decide, because these reviewer comments might not be fair. So they should see. That's why you need good reviewers, editors, competent and confident editors. So that's why you should submit it to really accomplished journals that are wrote by these top journals, top field, second tier field. They're all handled by experienced journals. So sometimes they may say, no, if 3 of them support it, I will accept it. So usually I think 4 is a bit uncommon. Usually it's like 2 to 3 is the number of reviewers that you receive. Of course, 2 is like the minimum. You always get 2 reviewers. But the editor will guide you. Exactly. Sometimes they also guide you if they're really good. What they do is they look at all the 4. Okay, you can see that because one of them, because I had to withdraw a paper in a reputable journal, like World Development. The editor was like really useless in telling me, because the 2 reviewers that gave me completely opposite comments. Like one of them said, yeah, you should drop this estimator, which is dynamic panel data, and use this. The other one says it's an excellent, very good because of this, so improve the paper this way, that way. I got in touch with him saying that, hey, at the end of the day, I'm not going to make both happy. It's clear. So you have to give me some advice on how to do this paper. So like, no. He took like 2 months to respond. This is what we call a useless editor, basically. 2 months and say, no, you have to try to address both. There is no way. Say that, okay, I withdraw my paper. I'm not going to address. I sent it somewhere else. That happens. But that's very often what happens in multidisciplinary journals or very broad journals, because the editor is that he's not working in that area. He cannot make any decision based on that. And they're very scared, by the way. They also have their own stress, because it's fine for them to reject a good paper, but it's very bad to accept the bad paper. So they operate in that kind of mindset, and that can happen. But I think you have to look into the journals and make sure that you consult people who publish in that journal first. You see, that's what we don't take advantage of. Well, often, of course, we don't have many people actively publishing in the departments, especially in the African universities. That's the problem. But you have to talk to colleagues who published in that paper and senior colleagues, and then give me some advice, please. How do I address this? It's very important to do that. Provide an excerpt from the text addressing comments. Make your responses exhaustive, but to the point. Like it has to be really, you have to explain very well what you have done. If it is like one new paragraph that you included, you have to cut and paste that paragraph in the response letter, showing them that this is how I did it. It's really communication. They can sense your attitude from your responses. You have to really watch your tone. Even if the comment is upsetting, you should not respond in an upsetting tone as well. The reviewers and editors can sense your attitude from your response. Sometimes the comment doesn't make sense, or it's even wrong. If you have to disagree, you have to disagree respectfully. Make sure to share your response letter with your mentor. You should have one, and solicit their comment. You should get all the revision files, manuscripts, response letter, and letter to the editor copy edited. This is also another problem. So you see a lot of typos. Nowadays you can do these things very freely, free of charge on AI. You can do it in Grammarly, you can do it in ChatGPT, like the language. So it has to be really, all the documents should be properly copy edited before you submit. Yes, that's all about publications. Yeah.
So like, what do you do? Is it ethical to okay, some journals, right, they ask you to recommend a reviewer. So is it ethical for you to like talk to the reviewer on the side, and like tell them about the journal, or you like wait for the journal to approach them?
No. Talking to the reviewer is far. I find it actually very weird. Not many economics journalists do that, actually. Very few. one journal, actually, from all the journals that I listed there, the Journal of, what is it called, JIBO, the Journal of Economic Behavior and Organization, at some point asked like reviewers. And they're like, okay, this guy, that guy, that guy. And then they complained about saying that, but these guys are your former co-authors, some of them. Some of them work in the same department as you. So like, so what the hell do you want me to do? Why do you ask me in the first place? Right? So it's not a good idea. I think it has to be the responsibility of the editor to choose reviewers. Because otherwise it's not really peer reviewed. So the people that you know, if they're reviewing your paper, there's no way that they will reject you. You know, very highly likely to accept the paper, and that's not what we want. Because if their decision changes because they know you or not, then that's not really what we want. We really want to improve the quality of the paper, so they should, you should not really, sometimes you have the option to say like, no, I don't recommend anyone. You can skip that if you have that option. But talking to the people, no, I don't think it's ethical. So we'll see now in the research ethics part.
Professor, let's say you're done studying and you continue with your career, but you don't work at a university, and you still want to publish.
Yes.
How do you go about it? Do you just collaborate with people who work at a university?
No, you don't need to be in a university to publish a paper.
How do you get ethics approval then if you don't?
Yes, that's the part that you have to figure out. Yes, that's especially if you have to collect like primary data. I think there's some weird things going on in some of these South African universities. These things are being politicized, and other issues are brought into the academic debate. I don't like that. That's a clear infringement in freedom of expression. The reason we like academia is we're free to write whatever research we want as long as we follow a standard and follow the protocol. Secondary data, for example, the World Bank Living Standard Measurement Survey, I analyze that data in whatever way feels appropriate to fit in my research question. I don't need any ethical approval for writing a paper using that data. But if I go to the field and run my own experiment, then I need ethical approval because the interventions might harm other people. So then I have to be careful, and someone else should give me that assurance. So long story short, if you're based in a consultancy firm, you just write a consultancy firm, researcher in this consultancy firm, and you email address them. The paper would be judged by its content, not by your affiliation. Journals are totally fine with that. Yes.
So just to say, on the ethical approval part, if you need that, so it's obviously better it's quicker if you have someone go off affiliated with the university, but there are private places that also do ethical approval.
Yes.
That you pay.
Yes.
And the HSRC, which sits outside it, also has an ethical approval process that you can.
Yes, I heard about that. In the US, they have these private firms as well, think tanks, that can give you ethical clearance on it. Any more questions? So, how do you find these point allocations? So, from value for money or value for time point of view, you can see that, oh, I didn't, sure, let's say another journal. After a top field, you have what? Second tier. Third, it goes down the list. Usually we stop around third. You do it third, here's, you get one, approximately you get 0.5. So you can see that it really doesn't make sense for you to focus on papers that will end up here. You should focus where? At least here and here. At least. And these are kind of reachable. There are people in Stellenbosch, Cape Town, publishing in these journals. Even here, I've seen recently that they collaborate with other people. It's also a matter of collaborating. You have a huge advantage because you're working in an African context. There are other people from the US or Europe who want to come here and collaborate. So if you are making yourself available for that kind of collaboration, that's one way to get the paper out. because you know the context. You can do data collection, field work, and everything, and then do the analysis. And then the co-author will do the selling of the paper, or the motivation. You draft the paper, so you can find platforms to collaborate. The details of this we'll be discussing it pretty soon. Thank you.